Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Kevin McDonald, but I think by now you kind of know that. And we have a great guest for you today. We're going to talk about a lot of things that are now just becoming into people's awareness. That's been going on for a very long time. And she is a MD. She's a teacher. She was with the Navajo Nation for a period of years, and she has been a practicing physician for many years, and now
40 years.
Oh, geez. and in that time, she learned a lot of things about what works and what doesn't work, and a lot of it has to do with our environment, and a lot of it has to do with how we live our lives and stuff, rather than here, go take this pill and you'll be all better. And so we're going to talk about all of that, and also her new book, which is From Mountains to Medicine, which is the second of a three-part series that she is creating. And I'm looking forward to this conversation. I think it'll be really, really fun. Doctor, how are you?
I'm having a great day. I'm very happy to be on your show. And I think what I have to talk about is totally in alignment with what you talk about, because in your introduction, it's about finding your purpose and meaning in life. And that's what my second memoir, this one, is all about, is finding meaning and purpose. And that's what my life has been about. And I finally am on my path, and that's why I feel so much joy. Is I'm finally here. I'm finally what I was looking for much of my life, and I finally found it. But it was very circuitous. I had to overcome a lot of different obstacles, and I had to discover who I really am. It's not who I thought I was, the authentic me. And so I think your viewers, since they are kindred spirits to you, that's why they listen to you, I think they'd find the book really meaningful, even though it tells a story that's very different from most people's stories, because my life was very unusual. But the themes in the story are totally universal. They apply to everybody, about overcoming your self-limiting beliefs about yourself, learning who you really are, overcoming daunting obstacles, learning that you're more capable than you ever thought you were. And yeah, those kind of universal themes that everybody can relate to, even if the actual experience is foreign to them.
Well, I'm willing to say, and I'm willing to bet that your life is is part of this, and that we come here with a purpose. We come here with an idea of who we choose to be and what we'd like to be even before we got here. But the problem that we have is that everybody throughout life is telling us something different, and we don't necessarily live the way that we inherently in our heart know that we would like to live, because of all the stories that are told to us over time that tell us we're not this, we can't do that. If you want to be successful, this is how you do it. If you want to be right, and if you want to be loved, if you want to be taken care of, then you got to do it this way. And there comes a point in time, and it came to you, and I would be curious to know when that point in time came when you said to yourself, Yeah, this isn't all there is. It can't be. I've got to learn what it is and
Okay.
the reason that I'm really here.
Well, actually, to tell you the truth, this is kind of unusual. Ever since I was a little girl, I remember thinking, and I never shared this with anybody because I thought they'd think I was really weird. I didn't even share it with my family. But I thought there must be more to life than this. I was very young when I had that thought. I thought, God, is it just about, going to school and coming home and doing your homework and playing a little bit and then watching TV and going to bed? And so, and I thought, I, I must be here for a reason. I don't know what it is, but I think I'm supposed to be doing something. And so much of my life was trying to find that. But, you know, I want to share with your people that watch the show that sometimes some of the most horrible experiences that you think you could ever have encountered, when you look back on your life and the tapestry of your life, how it all fits together, you'll see that some of those really horrible experiences were life-saving because, like, for example, with some of my patients, I attract patients from all over the country who can't get the help they need or they're misdiagnosed or something. And many of them are in really bad shape. They have environmental illness, or they have Lyme disease, or those kind of diseases that aren't easily fixed. And some of them will say their life is destroyed, they lost their friends, their job, and even their family thinks it's all psychological, their problems and stuff like that. And I tell them, okay, you're stripped right now. The old you is gone. You're stripped and you have nothing to take its place. But this is your opportunity, even though it feels horrible what you're experiencing, just you can't imagine anything worse than that this is a chance for you to rebuild your life in alignment with who you really are and your soul's longing. And it might not be, it might be something you never dreamed of. You might end up being a health coach or something like that, or you might end up making the world's best organic bread or something. Who knows? But this is an opportunity, and this is what happened to me when I was in college. I came from a kind of rigid background. My mother was Swiss from the old school with lots of hitting and slapping and, telling us, criticizing us constantly. My father was a general. He's actually more like the mother. He was softer and more gentle. And, but I finished high school in Germany because my father was stationed over there and had a very rigorous education. And when it was time to go to college, I didn't have a clue where to go to college. And my American advisor said, well, if you don't know where to go, just go where your parents went. Well, I said, well, that's not going to work. My mother graduated from the University of Zurich in Switzerland because she's Swiss. My father went to Harvard, and I don't want to go there. And all the colleges look the same in the college catalog. And so when I was hitchhiking around Europe, back in those days, it was safe. Girls could hitchhike and they weren't going to get killed or raped and stay at youth hostels. I would run into these really interesting people who dress kind of like gypsies, and they all played musical instruments, and they were extremely intelligent and but not in the usual sense, in a different kind of eccentric sense. And they could talk about politics and the social conditions all around the world. And I was amazed. And they went to a place called Antioch College. This is in the early 60s. And I thought, I'd like to go to a place like that. And so so I decided to apply, and I told the college counselor, and she said, that's no place for a nice, smart girl like you. And I said, why not? She said, there are hippies there. And I said, what are hippies? I didn't even know what hippies were. I was in Germany. And so this was at the dawn of all of that, the dawn. So
Yeah.
I was totally ignorant. And I said, well, I don't know what that is, but what else is wrong with the place? She said, well, they're troublemakers. What do you mean they're troublemakers? Well, they're protesting against the war in Vietnam. And I said, well, what's wrong with that? She said, that's not right to protest against your own government. That's terrible. And I said, anything else? She said, well, it's the only college in the whole United States that has mixed men and women are in the same dorms. I said, well, I don't really see what's wrong with that, because my brothers lived in the same house as us and used the same bathroom. What's the problem? And she said, well, the worst problem is, and then she kind of whispered, they smoke marijuana. I said, what? I'd never heard of marijuana. And she mispronounced it. And I said, what's wrong with that? And she said, it's a plant that makes you crazy. And so anyway, so I decided I would go there, but it was so shocking given my rigid upbringing. I mean, they didn't even have grades. You could test out if you got high scores, which I did because I had a good education in Germany. I scored out of most of my requirements. So I was just floating around taking this and that course. And I thought, God, if my parents ever find out, they'll never pay for this school. And then there was all these drugs and stuff. And I was so lost. And I was trying to be like everybody, dress like them, sort of look like in rags or something, and learn their language. I mean, people say, have you ever dropped acid? I wouldn't have a clue what they're talking about, or did I smoke weed? And I mean, I just couldn't understand what they're saying. And so I had to learn a new language, so to speak, and I dressed like them. So I tried everything. I tried marijuana, I tried LSD, psilocybin, everything. And pretty soon I was psychotic, and from lack of sleep too. My roommate had sex all night, and it was a tiny room, and so I couldn't sleep. But I was too afraid to tell her to stop it because I thought she'd think I was a prude. I was trying so hard to fit in to this lunatic asylum. And so pretty soon I had a breakdown, and I thought, my life is meaningless. I have no worth. I don't even know why I'm on this planet. There's no reason for me to be alive. And I took one of the courses that I took was advanced French. I was fluent in several languages. I took advanced French literature, and 1800s learned how it was suicide was romanticized, like for unrequited love and stuff. You go kill yourself. And it was always
Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, it was always like sitting in front of a stove and getting gas poison. So I decided I was going to do that I had no reason to live. And so I opened the oven door, and I sat there, and I turned on the gas, and nothing happened. And I just waited and waited for something to happen. I said, well, this isn't the way it was in the books I read. And so I thought, oh, I see what's wrong. I have to light the pilot light. So I lit a match, and the whole place blew up.
Yeah, that'll happen.
I was blown against the wall. It was a small kitchen. I was in the chair, and I was blown against the wall in the chair. It was so the shock was so great, and I was burned from the hair here, and the eyebrows, eyelashes were all burned, and the building shook. So the guy upstairs ran downstairs, threw me in the shower, and then when he got me out and dried me off, and I dressed, and he said, you tried to commit suicide, didn't you? And I said, yes. And he said, well, I have to report this to the dean. I said, no, don't, please don't do that. My parents will find out. And he said, well, if you killed yourself, your parents would find out. And so,
They would know.
And he said, I have to tell. So the dean said, you have a choice, Erica. You can either leave the college and we can notify your parents and they come get you, or you can see the college psychiatrist. And I said, back in, in the ancient days of the 60s, I said, I'm not going to see a psychiatrist. That's for crazy people. So, and she said, well, if you don't see the psychiatrist, you're going to have to leave the college and we contact your parents. And so I said, okay, I'll see the psychiatrist. So this was so humiliating for me that I wasn't dead and I had to go see a psychiatrist. So when I went downtown to Yellow Springs, Ohio, I went and saw the psychiatrist, and I was so ashamed of myself. I couldn't even look at him. He was this very handsome Black man. And as I was looking at the ground in front of his desk crying, because I was so mortified with shame, he started telling me about he's the first Black psychiatrist to graduate from University of Zurich, of all places, in Switzerland, where my mother went to school. And finally he'd ask me these questions and I just couldn't talk. I was mute. And so finally he got up and opened the door and he said, you can leave now because you're not participating. And I said, no, I can't leave because then they'll tell my parents and I'll have to leave. He said, you can work that out. And I said, well, if I talk, can I stay? And he said, yes. And then did I talk? I didn't realize I had so much to say. And he was the best psychiatrist one could imagine because he didn't give pills and he didn't tell me what to do. He created a very sacred space for me and he listened with great compassion. He never passed judgment on me. He didn't even say that much, except he could tell when I was going off in the wrong direction. He'd just say something to like, well, how do you know you're stupid? He'd say things like that. And then I'd have to say, yeah, well, let's see. Why do I think I'm stupid? And, but I had never been treated that way in my life with such deep respect and compassion. It was the first time in my life I felt seen and heard. And that in itself was so healing that I eventually told him my whole early life. And as I was telling, I could see how injured I was, how harmed I was by some of the treatments of how we were raised. It was very rough. And I was there for 2 years seeing him, and it was really profound. It was the first time I discovered who I really am. And that's when I consider that my life began as a sentient human being, is then. And before then, I was just playing a role of somebody who I thought I was supposed to be. And that's what, yeah, Kevin?
Well, I was gonna say, what's really cool about that is that we all have that person in our life that either comes or they go at one point or another that has that kind of an impact. If we allow it and if we are look for it, they can have that kind of an impact because he was brought into your life at that moment in time because you needed to change into a different person and you needed to grow and to become who you really were. And that's really how that works.
I
And
know.
so
Yeah.
that was great.
Kevin, this is what made me realize that sometimes the most horrible things that I thought this was the worst thing in the world that could ever happen to me. The humiliation, trying to unsuccessfully kill myself, and this whole thing was just so awful. But it turned out to save me. I mean, my motto is never waste a bad experience, and
Yeah.
my whole life I've never wasted any of the bad experiences that have come to me. I haven't wasted any of them. They've all been a springboard, a portal to a higher level of being. So this was my first portal, my first springboard, and my life just took off in a huge way. And that's when I went to um, teach on the Navajo reservation, and that was life changing too. I when I first got there, I thought, oh my God, I think I made a mistake coming here. It's all just desert. Everything looks brown and stuff. I and the children didn't talk to me. They had their head down, and everybody's everybody sounded like they're mad at each other. I discovered later that Navajo sounds like that. It sounds like they're angry, even if they're saying you're great. It sounds like they're saying something angry, and because it's a guttural language. And I, after a week of just being frustrated, not making any progress with the students, so they never even looked up at me and everything. And I didn't know anything about Navajo culture. The school did not orient me, and I didn't take it upon myself to read books about the Navajo culture. So I was really ignorant, just like the other white teachers there. And the other white teachers, they said very unkind things about the students, really awful things, and they couldn't wait till they could retire and go back to wherever. And so anyway,
Well, and so if I can interject here, a couple things. First of all, we need to take a quick break,
okay,
and when we come back, I want to talk to you about the fact that now I have come after you and I have been around the planet a while now, and I remember the movement of the '60s and the hippies and the yippies and the folks that were out there. It was a really unique and interesting time, and the Vietnam War was a big protest that a lot of people took part of and stuff. To go through that and to go where you are today, the interesting thing is I don't think that there are any bad experiences. I think that all the experiences of life are there to teach us and to help us navigate where we're going to go next.
yeah,
And your life is a prime example of what I call a bad country music song, which is what my life was for a period of time. And but you learn from it and you grow from it, and
yeah,
it becomes an important piece of who you really are, so that you can then
yeah,
be who you really are,
yes,
and
yes.
not what everybody tells you you're supposed
Yes,
to
and
be.
then you can really search for your path in life. You can't really find your real purpose when you're not living your authentic life. How can you find your real purpose? You can't. I don't see how you can.
You can't. Because you're it's not that you're living a lie, you're just living what has been told to you, and that may not really resonate with you. It didn't resonate with you since you were a little girl.
Yeah.
And so we need to take a quick break, and we're talking with Dr. Erica M. Elliott, and we'll be right back after this. We're going to talk more about her book. We're going to talk about environmental medicine. We're going to talk about all the things that she's done in her life, and how she's able to help people, including something that affects my family, which is autoimmune and inflammation.
Mhm.
And I wanted her to, I th-
Yeah.
today's doctors have no idea how to help
Yep.
with that. So I will be right back after this.
They have your eyes. They have your ears. They have your smile. Now all they need is a little more of your time. Make a difference in your child's life, because anyone can be a father. It takes time to be a dad.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, and we're talking with Dr. Erica. And by the way, that's like an old time rock and roll song from way back when. And we're talking about her. She's done so much. She was a teacher, and she's been in practice for 40 years. Matter of fact, on her website, it basically says, I'm not taking any more patients because I'm full. Uh, yeah, I've got all the work that I can do. So, but you are delightful to be here, and your whole story, and you can see it in your eyes and in your face and in your smile, that you know who you are now.
It's
And
really nice to know who you are. Kevin, I'd just like to leave the audience with what happened when I went to the reservation, and it was initially a bad experience. So I called my father and said, I want to come home. This isn't happening. I think I made a mistake choosing to come out here. I don't like it here, and people don't talk to me, and the land is ugly. And boy, was I wrong about that. There's one of the most beautiful places on earth there, Canyon de Chelly. I didn't have the right eyes. And so anyway, my father said, why do you want to come home? You've only been there a week. You can't really judge a person, place, or place before you've been there a while. How about this? How about you stay for 3 months, and if you're still unhappy, you come back and find a job back here. And I said, okay. I thought, how am I going to last 3 months? That very next day, my teacher aide, who comes from a very famous Navajo family. Her father was Carl Gorman, a famous code talker in World War II. Her brother, R.C. Gorman, is a famous artist here in the Southwest, who's now passed. And she knows both the white world and the Navajo world. She was fluent in English and fluent in Navajo. And she, like most Navajos, were very shy. But she said, I feel I can see how much you want to help the students. You're trying really hard, but you need to know about their culture. So I'd like to tell you about why they don't look at you. They're showing respect. And why they don't speak to you is because many of them don't speak English. And I said, how can they not speak English? They're in the 4th grade. She said, well, because many of them had to stay home to take care of herding the sheep, or the mother had a baby and they needed help. So they miss a lot of school. It's a boarding school. They live in the middle of nowhere. And also the teachers don't really like the Navajo students, and the students know that. And so they're not going to learn very well when they have teachers that don't like them. And she said, I would like to help you. So I would like to teach you a little bit of Navajo. That will break the ice. They'll see that you're different from the other teachers. So she taught me how to say, oh my God, it's so hard. I'm linguistically oriented because we moved around all the time. So I speak multiple languages, but I never come across a language like this. It was so hard. It was harder than Chinese. And so she taught me how to say, good morning, my children. My name is Erica Elliott. What's your name? Okay. So I practiced all night, and I came in the room and said, Erica Elliott. And everybody looked up and they burst out laughing. And that was the beginning of a love affair. I started learning Navajo, and each kid asked me to check them out each weekend to their hogan in the middle of nowhere. And I participated in ceremonies that white people never see. And I was invited to the Native American church, the Peyote church. I saw miracles. I saw things that I could never explain to you. And they're recounted in my first memoir. Kevin?
Doctor, I just wanted to say this because in addition to doing what I do, I'm also a bit of a history buff.
Yeah.
And so I want to let everybody know that you mentioned code talker.
Yeah.
And in World War II, in order to keep the codes away from the Nazis and from the Japanese, they had Navajo speakers who were able, and these are very brave people. There's a movie about it, Code Talkers, and they were very brave people, but they were able to go overseas, and they would talk to each other in Navajo, and the enemy could not possibly figure out what it was, because you're right, it's a very difficult language to learn. And so they had a very big part of the Battle of Iwo Jima and several other battles in the Pacific because of the language that they talk. Okay, I said that, and I just wanted to make sure that people got how significant the Navajo people were in the history of the United States.
And it wasn't even a code. That's how hard it is, the language. I mean, they have sounds like and that's why they all sound like they're mad at each other. It's very guttural. And so it wasn't even a code, it was just their language, and nobody could break it. The only
Nope.
code that was never broken, it wasn't a code.
Exactly, and it was there's a movie out there that you should watch it, and just put Code Talkers in, and it'll come up. But it was a remarkable thing that these men did, and they were very, very brave, because a lot of them were on the front lines telling people where to move, and coordinating the fire and doing all of that sort of thing. So they were very, 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 very important. So
So if your audience would like to read that little book, it's very easy to read. It's called Medicine and Miracles in the High Desert: My Life Among the Navajo People, and it's on Audible and Kindle and paperback and hardback, and it's very fast reading. And
very, very cool. Doctor, we need to take a station break just real quick,
okay.
and then we'll be back in a minute and 10 seconds, I promise, because this is a fascinating discussion. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. I got to tell you, this is a fabulous episode. And by the way, Doctor, you're going to have to come back, because we're not going to get anywhere near through all your information and how you spent the last 40 years helping people, and more than just being a doctor and stuff. So we'll talk about a lot of that. Then we also need to talk more about your book and stuff. But thank you for being here. I really appreciate your time.
I felt like I chose you and you chose me. I chose you because you seem totally in alignment with my spirit.
I feel the same. I feel the same. And you have spent your life searching and looking and finding and maybe losing a little, and then finding more about your life and what your real purpose is. And everybody, okay, I can't say everybody, but a lot of people that I talk to are interested in that, but they just don't know how.
Yeah.
And they stop searching because their dad said that they can't do it, or their mom said you need to be a housewife and you need to just do this, and rather than searching for who they really are, because that's why we're here. It's not to be, yes, it's to be some of the other things, but to be who you really are. That's what's so important. And you have done that, and you're still doing it. You're still progressing and learning and moving forward.
Kevin, I'm gonna do it till I drop dead. Why? Because I love what I do. In fact, I want to tell you something funny. 5 years ago, a patient who had really bad PTSD from childhood, she was still damaged somewhat, and she talked with a little bit of a stutter. And she said at the end of the appointment, and she was formal. She called me Dr. Elliott. Most of my patients call me by my first name. I'm not pretentious at all. And, or they say Dr. E, but she was very formal. She called me Dr. Elliott. And she said, she talked like this, Dr. Elliott, I have something I want to ask you. I said, sure, go ahead. Are you going to retire someday? She was very worried about that. I said, no, I'm probably not going to retire. I'm probably going to keep working till and just drop dead working. And the patient turned white, and I thought she was going to faint. And she said breathlessly, please don't do that during one of our appointments. I don't think I'd ever recover. so, she was very literal. She was very literal. But I wanted to go back to something. So after I found out my true authentic self, I carried one misbelief about myself, and that kept me searching for 10 years for my calling, which was medicine, and it was right in front of my nose the whole time. I come from 3 generations. I mean, I'm the 3rd generation Swiss doctor. And so after I left Antioch, I wanted to visit my uncle, he's dead now, a famous doctor, alternative doctor, and there were very few of those in those days. He was one in a million, and because this was in the 60s and 70s, and people came from all over the world to see him. And my father said he was a quack, and my mother said he was a genius. And so I decided I was going to be like an investigative reporter. I was going to go there and decide who was right. And so I went to Switzerland, and when he met me at the train, I concluded he's a total quack, because he greeted me and he was very awkward, probably because he had a very cruel upbringing with stepmothers who should have gone to jail for the way they treated my mother and her brother, Uncle Ernst. So he was very awkward, but very kind, extremely awkward. And he said, your fast has begun today. I said, what? Fast? What do you mean fast? What does fast mean? You don't eat? And he said, yes. I said, but for how long? And he said, a fortnight. I said, like 2 weeks? And we switched language, German, a little bit of Swiss, and English and French. And because when something was so shocking, I'd ask him to say it in another language, but it was still shocking. And so I said, why do I have to do that? And he said, because you're toxic. This is 1970. I said, toxic? That sounded like an oil spill in Alaska or something. I said, why do you think I'm toxic? And he said, because you're American. I said, you think Americans are toxic? And he said, yes, they have lots of chemicals and this and that and so on. I thought, he is totally crazy. He's a complete nutcase. I have to figure out how to escape. I'm not going to not eat for 2 weeks, 15 days. I'm going to die if I don't eat for 15 days. Well, anyway, long story short, I interviewed his patients. They all adored him. They were all terminal cancer patients or had diagnosis that nobody could treat, like schizophrenia, and they raved about him. They come from all over Europe and even Russia, and even poor people like street sweepers from Turkey, and famous people like the premier of Germany and Vatican and so forth. And so anyway, so he changed my life. He planted some seeds, and I remember thinking, this guy is a true genius. My mother was right. He's a brilliant, brilliant man. He's like, and he was my only experience with a doctor. I was healthy. I never went to the doctor. And so I had this idea, this false idea, that I carried with me for 10 years, that you had to be a genius to be a doctor. And that is so wrong. That is so wrong. But I kept that misperception. And I said, I'm not a genius. I might be smart, but I'm not a genius. I know that. And so I was looking. I thought, oh, my purpose is teaching. No, it's this. It's this. Oh no, it's this. So anyway, when I was in the Peace Corps in South America, and I did a lot of mountain climbing. I have a peak named after me, and I was the first American woman to climb Aconcagua, which is the highest mountain in the Western Hemisphere. Because I joined the all-male climbing club, I talked my way into it. I didn't know how to climb at all. And when they found out, they thought, oh, well, we'll just make you our mascot. We'll teach you everything we know. And so I did. I mean, I fortunately, I don't know what the rules in life are. And that's what helped me get this far, is because when people know what the rules are, like women aren't supposed to do this and you're supposed to do that and that. And I didn't know the rules. And so the world was full of possibilities for me because I did. And so anyway, when I came back, I taught for Outward Bound for a few summers, and I was going to get my master's degree in experiential education. And because I thought, this is my purpose, is to take people to the wilderness and have life-changing experiences, because that's what happened on Outward Bound. It was totally profound what happened, the changes in these people. But I had so much spare time getting my master's degree because it was so easy, that I decided, since I tested out of all my science courses in Antioch, I would take some science courses at the University of Colorado. So I signed up for advanced placement, biology and chemistry. And in my class, I discovered that I was the only person who was not pre-med. They were all pre-med. They were future doctors. And I thought, oh my God, these guys are not geniuses. These future doctors are not geniuses. They're not even that. They're just good at memorizing and taking tests. And I'm good at memorizing. So, oh my God. And then all of a sudden I had an epiphany. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. But I had this idea you had to be extraordinarily genius level to be a doctor. And boy, was I wrong. And so,
Can I say something in between before we continue? And that is this. There's going to be somebody, and they may have already happened, that is going to come by and say, this doctor's got some stuff going on. She's got a lot, and they're going to interview your patients, and your patients are going to swear that you're a genius.
that's what they say. And and
See, I told you. And so you're not allowed, from this day forward, you're not allowed to say you're not a genius.
well, I still feel funny when patients.
Of course you do. Of course you do. But the fact of the matter is, my dear, is that you have done. Think about the things that you've done in life, and we're still, you're still in less than 30, and we're not done with that part yet. But you've done so many things in life that you are. And being a doctor for all these years and stuff, you are a genius. And I was struck when you said, well, I had so much free time because taking a doctorate was easy. It's like, oh geez, really? There are people that are sweating blood trying to get through it, and you're like, what am I going to do now? I've got nothing else to do. All the homework's done, and I'm a and stuff. So congratulations. But never, ever, 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 you're not allowed to ever sell yourself short of what you truly are, which is a genius who is brought here among us to help people. And congratulations on who you are.
Thank you. People also say at the same time they say I'm a genius, they also say in the same sentence, I'm humble. So that makes me feel good.
There you go. See, and so it's not, and you've come to realize the truth about the matter is it's not about you.
It's not about me. Yeah.
It's not about me either. It's about the positive impact that you can have on somebody else's life,
Yeah.
and you do that in spades.
I love it. I love helping people feel better, Kevin. It's such a joy. I don't, and in mainstream medicine, I never got this feeling of such joy because you couldn't really, in corporate medicine, you can't really help people on a deep level. I'm talking about chronic conditions. I'm not talking about emergency medicine. I'm not talking about surgery. I'm talking about chronic conditions like your autoimmune condition and stuff like that. Our system is really failed miserably. So I never got that feeling of just utter and complete joy. Well, oh yes, I did. One time I broke the rules, and you're supposed to, see X number of patients, and I saw this family that was in great distress, and it was a guy from Los Alamos Labs, a physicist who was very Asperger type. This was like in the early 90s, and his wife was from the days when you got a wife from a catalog, and so I know that's shocking. And it was a Chinese woman,
Still
and
happens today.
and
Still
I know, and they were having trouble because she couldn't speak much English, and he said that she cried all the time, and he said, "I want you to give her a pill." She just, I said, "What kind of pill?" She said, "A pill to stop her crying." And so I said, "Well, listen, why don't you step out, and I'll try to talk to her." And she again, she didn't speak much English, and so anyway, my time had already been up, 15 minutes to deal with something like this. So I said, "Screw it. I'm gonna break the rules this one time. Go ahead and let me get in trouble. I don't care." And so I said to her, I put my hand, she was sitting on the exam table. I put my hands on her knee, on her thighs, like she was sitting, and I looked into her eyes, and I said, "You're very sad, aren't you?" She said, "Yes, yes." She couldn't say it too much. "Yes." And I said, "Are you sad for a reason?" "Yes." Are you sad because do you miss China? She said, she went yes and no, like, yes and no. I said, "Is there someone you miss in China?" She said, "Yes." And she really cried. I said, "Is it your mother?" "No." Is it, do you have a child in China?" "Yes." I said, "Did you have to leave your child to get married?" "Yes. My husband, he won't take." Then she was trying to tell me that if she had told him, the husband, that she had a child, she wouldn't have been
Really?
picked. Yeah. And so I said, "Would you like your son to come here?" "Yes." So I said, "Okay, we're going to make that happen. I'm going to go get your husband." So I said, "She's crying not because she needs a pill. And she's crying because she didn't tell you that she has a son who's 6 years old in China, and she misses him terribly. And what I would like to propose to you," he was very Asperger, so meaning he wasn't connected this way. So I normally don't talk to people like that, but I found myself talking like that to him. So I said, "Here's what you need to do. You need to fill out some paperwork and get the child to come here to be with your wife, and the crying, there'll be no more crying, no more sadness, and then you can have a happy marriage. Do you agree with that?" And he said, "Okay, okay, so whatever it takes. I just can't stand to see her crying all the time." so I said, I'll when he comes, I'll to America, I'll do the physical exam and fill out those forms and everything. So anyway, that took an hour and I got in trouble. I got in a lot of trouble. That meant no bonus for me. I didn't care. I mean, it was a horrible way to practice medicine, but this was so meaningful and so joyful to me. That was the one time where I really thought, wow, I made a difference in their lives. But the rest of the patient, what can you do in 15 or 20 minutes? What can you do except give pills and order a lot of tests?
I want to just, for those of you that are wondering what she's talking about, the way the medical profession is set up is that they have a schedule, and they schedule so many patients per hour, so many patients per day, and you are required as a physician to spend your time, the 15 minutes or so that you have, to make a snap diagnosis and to then go on to the next patient. It's like a conveyor belt. It's like they keep on. It's not a matter of, you can take the amount of time that you need to be with the doctor so that the doctor can do a thorough exam and get the diagnosis right. So it's all part of Western medicine and how they do stuff. And it's too bad, because people need more time sometimes, as you know.
So just because we're running out of time, I just want to jump ahead. And
Okay.
so
You're better at this than I am. Goodness gracious.
So here's jumping way ahead, and this is all in this book that, well, no, not in this book. This third book is what I'm about to say is, okay. So you might say, well, why did you stay in corporate medicine if it was so miserable? Well, because we were all told that you could never make it on your own. You'd starve to death. You'd never get patients, and it wouldn't work.
And you'd be called a quack.
Yeah, and you'd be called a quack. Yes. And so that was all kind of scary to me, to be called a quack, to have no patience, can't make a living, and so forth. And so I hung in there. Plus I was a single mother and I needed regular hours. And so then they pay you a lot of money too. And so so then what happened? An angel intervened and struck me down. And how I was struck down, another disaster, which ended up the best thing in my life, is that the building was toxic. It was sick. It's called sick building syndrome. It was a new building, outgassing lots of bad chemicals. Where I was located in the building, I was hit the hardest. They pesticided once a month. In my diary, I said, every month I said, I feel like I've got the flu, but no fever. Well, that was when they pesticided. And they used a pesticide that's now banned because it's known to cause brain damage. And I got sicker and sicker and sicker in there. And I saw every doctor. Everybody was useless in terms of helping me figure this out. It took me ages to figure out what was going on, that I was being, quote, poisoned by these chemicals. And I found out later why I was hit. Everybody was affected, but I was affected the worst, because genetically, when I studied environmental medicine and studied my genes, I can't clear toxins as well as other people. So it impacted me really badly. So I became non-functional, and I just quit and went home and cried. I thought, this is the end of me. I'm going to lose my home. I'm going to lose my child. I won't be able to pay the mortgage. I won't be able to do anything. My life is over. And pretty soon, people knocked on my door at my home and asking me to treat them. And I was so honest. I am a very honest person. You'll read my books. I tell everything. I don't hide anything. And I said, I'm brain damaged. I've been injured by chemicals. And they said, oh, we know that. Everybody knows that. Your nurse told us. Can I come in to see you? This is my very first patient. I said, I'm a bit confused. How did you find my home? She said, well, I asked around. And I said, well, you want to come into this is my house. And she said, that's fine. Can I just come into your living room and you give me an appointment? I I felt, wow, I'm really demented. I can't put this together. I said, okay. And she walked in like she knew my house, sat on the couch, and then I sat on the other couch, and she started talking. And I was so brain damaged, I couldn't string the sentences together because my short-term memory was so bad from the damage. And suddenly she said, "Are we done?" She said, "Look, I've talked an hour. Are we done?" I said, "Well, are you done?" She said, "Yeah. How much do I owe you?" And I said, you don't owe me anything. I didn't do anything." She said, "Dr. Elliott, you don't understand. You're the first doctor that's ever really listened to me and heard me, and I'm going to pay you for that, and I'm going to tell all my friends about you." I thought, oh my God. And so pretty soon I had all these patients, and I had nothing to offer except my compassion and my attention, even though I was demented from the chemicals. They were so grateful to be listened to. And pretty soon, when I studied environmental medicine to heal myself, then I used it to heal them. And pretty soon I had more patients than I could handle. And that's been the story of my life. And I never advertised once. But if I hadn't had that catastrophe, I don't know. I'd be a wizened up, my soul would be wizened up practicing medicine that way. Maybe I would have quit and become a regenerative gardener or farmer or something. I don't know. But it took a disaster to get me off that path into my true path in life, which has been profoundly meaningful. And I've been on that path for 33 years.
I have one important question to ask you. When they make a movie out of your story, who do you want to play you?
What's her name? Roan. It's an Irish name.
Sinead, not Sinead O'Connor. No. Would it be
Shore Roan or something like that? I forgot.
Oh, you've already thought about doing.
I mean, no, because there was a man who a filmmaker who was going to make the movie about my first book, and he was very excited about it. And then about several months into working on the script and everything, he had very aggressive prostate cancer, and within a few months he was dead. So I was already thinking in film terms and who would play me.
Well, I just got to tell you, the right guy is going to come along. The second book is out. It is called From Mountains to Medicine, and it is going to be your story needs to be told, and it needs to be told in a movie, because I can just picture you standing at your front door and the lady coming in and knocking at your door and saying, "Let me in, let me in, dang it, let me in, I'm coming in, you can't stop me," and stuff. So we've been talking with Dr. Erica M. Elliott. Go to Erica, and is it
Erica Elliott, EricaElliottMD.com.
That's it, EricaElliottMD.com. Find out all about her. And will you come back? We've run out of time, but I got to have you back on.
I think we're on the same wavelength. I'd love to come back.
You are tremendous. You are a genius. You are saving people all the time. And bless your soul for what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you.
And you have an awesome day. And we'll see you soon right here on Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald.
See you soon.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin@kmmedia.pro.